Alright. Oh, fuck. What is up, motherfuckers? This is. Yes, my first video. I already did some videos on this channel. They were game reviews. I haven't decided if I'm gonna leave them up or not, but if they're still there, you can look at them if you want, but be warned that they're bad, because it was me with my phone that had a full fucking keyboard. I posted it on my music stand from orchestra in elementary school, and I just reviewed games and talked, and it wasn't great. It wasn't great. I tried Let's Playing, and that shit I didn't stick with it, so it didn't go nowhere. Those weren't great either, but I made an effort at this already. But now I'm trying something a little different. I'm talking to you people about some shit that I think needs to be talked about. So, and I guess the one I want to bring up right now is as I stare at my Steam page, I just installed a Scribblenauts game, and I'm about to get it in on that in a minute. But no, I'm just sitting here thinking about, growing up and getting older and things starting to change in my world now and things about my life changing. And one of the biggest things that's changing for me has to do with the fact that I'm black. And to a lot of people, it's a thing of like, no man, it's not because you're black, dude. Calm down. You're being self-conscious. You're reading too deep into it, man. None of this is because you're black. You're not gonna run into it. You're gonna be fine. To which I say, if we still live in a world where I can talk to somebody and they can tell me, man, I was scared of you the first time I met you, but then I realized that you're a cool dude, and I'm like, but I'm smaller than you. Why were you scared of me? And they're like, well, it's because you're black, man. And I'm like, what? You really were afraid of me? And they're like, yeah, man, seriously. And I'm going, oh, Jesus, man. That's if I still hear that type of shit, no one has the right to tell me not to worry about it. So I don't know. Like, there's a lot of different elements to being black, especially being a young black male, that I don't think are really addressed or talked about in the greatest of ways. And I think I try to come from a more grounded perspective with a lot of things, so I figure I'll just go ahead and address some of the shit. So, one of the big things about being a black dude is, among a lot of other things, God, I'm drawing a fucking blank here. I'm thinking about so much shit that my brain is all fucked up. I'm like twisting and turning like a fucking Fruit Loop and shit over here. Man, I meant to say a fruit roll up, but I said a Fruit Loop. Fuck it, my brain's busted. I got brain issues. I got brain problems. I motherfucker. Fuck. No, typically when you're a dude and you're black, people tend to relate you with, gang violence and shit like that. And just all that kind of ignorant hood shit, hustling the streets, fucking slinging rocks, all that crazy shit that I've only heard people talk about because I've never even been in a ghetto. But no, just you're immediately, by a lot of people, boxed up into that category, especially if you walk into a place looking a certain way. Like, before I started growing out my hair, I would wear a Spider-Man snapback. And eventually I started wearing it backwards because I liked it more backwards than I did forwards. I don't know, I liked the way it felt more. And I'm absolutely positive that a few places I walked into, I got labeled and put in a fucking box because my snapback was backwards. I wasn't sagging my pants or any of that weird shit, but my skin is dark and my hat was backwards. So naturally, I'm a fucking thug and a hoodlum. Even though a lot of those times I'd be wearing a fucking Assassin's Creed shirt and my snapback was a fucking Spider-Man snapback. So the fact that it's all nerdy shit being put on blast, people will still box me into the category of, well, he's obviously a hoodlum, or what kind of shit is he getting up to today? And it's like, nothing, motherfucker. I'm gonna go to the store, load up on food for the week, pay rent, and then go hang out with my friends. I'm not here trying to do shit. I'm just living life like the rest of you motherfuckers are. I'm not doing anything any differently. Like, that's what frustrates me about it, man, is I've run into it a couple of times of just shit that happens if you're a young black dude. And then the only people who have told me it's not a problem anymore, it's no big deal, it's better than it used to be, the only ones I've heard that shit from are fucking white people. it's pretty much exclusively been kept to white people. And it fucking disturbs me. To now, in the light of all the shootings and shit recently, which I know better, and I know that not every cop is a shitty person. Like, it's the exact same thing as me being labeled as a thug because my hat is backwards. It's the exact same shit with the police. You can't see a couple of people do something and then assume the rest of them work that way. It doesn't work that way with black people or Mexicans or Asian people or any of that shit, and you can't categorize police officers that way either. It's the exact same shit. Like, just the thought that now I'm being made aware of, because I haven't really been thinking about it recently, I've been made aware of, once again, if you run into an officer, you as a young black man have a very special list of rules to follow if you don't want to die. No matter what it is that you're doing, if you don't want to die, follow this little set of rules to avoid getting shot in the fucking face. Not shot in the face only, like 1 to the head, 2 to the chest, 4 to the legs, whatever the hell goes on, based on who you run into, I have to be careful about that. And people are like, well, you don't have to worry about it. And I'm like, no, I do. Because if I'm riding my bike, I'm typically rapping. And if I'm riding my bicycle down a road, rapping, and an officer pulls me over, I need to put my best foot forward in that situation. Because if I don't, they've already seen me as some kind of thuggish type of little nigger. And if I don't play my shit right, then I'm probably going to die. So it's just little shit like that I have to think about that really fucking bothers me. Because so many people like to sidestep all those conversations. They don't want to talk about it. And the best friend I got right now, I met him in 4th grade. Because I had to, from kindergarten until 4th grade, I had a specific set of friends, and the group built over time. And then midway in 4th grade, I had to move. So we moved. Met this dude 4th grade at Gilbert Elementary. We became friends, and now we're still close, even after we stopped talking for about 5 years and then met up a year ago. We're still just as close as we were in elementary school. And my favorite part about this shit is he's a white kid. And, this idea for my hair, he came up with it. Fucking, like, I don't know. 1 minute I'm watching an episode of Lassie with him because he was watching fucking Lassie. Like, this motherfucker was actually watching the shit too. And I'm like, nigga, why we watching Lassie? I don't want to watch Lassie. And he's like, no, man, it's good. Just watch it. I'm like, all right, motherfucker. And we watch it, and then I go, okay, I kind of get it. I'm not being a jaded little bitch no more. I get it. So 1 minute we're watching Lassie, and then the next day we're bumping to fucking A$AP Rocky and all of them, and we're getting into an argument over who the best rapper is. I'm going like, nah, man, Speed is great. Bust is fucking dope. I can't deny that shit. No one can. But, lyrical content is everything. And he's like, no, man, Fast, it's impressive. I'm like, nigga, it's not about being impressed. It's about talking about something. We were having a discussion about the best rappers, and he's a fucking white kid. The fact that we can blend our cultures so seamlessly and so easily is fucking maddening, especially looking at the rest of the world and seeing just a lack of attempt for people to break out of their bubbles. Like, that's one thing I definitely learned in my dad not being around and having to move and make new friends a couple of times growing up, and in always being the weird kid, is you can't live in a bubble. You need to break out of your bubble and start branching out and learning different things as much as you can, because if you don't, you're not learning, and when you're not learning, you're stuck. When you're stuck, you become ignorant. And I was ignorant to a lot of shit. I've been ignorant to a lot of shit. I only started listening to rap a couple of years ago because one day I just decided, hey, maybe it's not all bad. Maybe there are some good rappers out there. And the fact that I wasn't even aware of the fact that not all rappers talk about fucking getting money and fucking hoes. I thought all of them talk like that. And then I learned, oh, there's a fuckload of rappers who don't talk about that shit, who talk about some real fucking shit. And it's just, I've always had to break out of bubbles, like social bubbles and everything. I've always had to break out of bubbles. Like, moving right before high school started was shitty, because I had to basically come into high school as a freshman and make a bunch of new friends. Very scary situation. But then, because of the way that I work and because I have enough self-confidence to just be myself and not give a fuck, I got in good with a bunch of seniors right off the bat, and shit just kind of took off really quick, and I made some friends. But it was still a very scary thing to have to adapt to not only a new type of school environment, but to adapt to a bunch of new kinds of people at the same time. It's very frustrating to deal with, but I did it. I was successful at it. And a lot of people can do the same shit with race. People will see music videos on TV, or they'll see black people on the news, or they'll see black people running around in the streets or doing whatever they're doing, and they'll assume all of them are like that. When ultimately, you only have a couple of examples to go off of. Every person is different, everyone behaves a different way. The fact that people box each other into categories like that so quickly, it's fucking disturbing, because I've learned not to do that shit. I've learned that there are exceptions to pretty much every rule, and that not everyone works the same way, and because someone's a certain race doesn't mean they're going to feel a certain way about things, and all this different shit that I've had to learn growing up. And now that I'm getting out into the world, I listen to a lot of rap on my bike. If I'm rapping at a red light, it doesn't matter what I'm rapping about. To a decent amount of the people around me who don't know better because they haven't bothered to learn better, I'm going to be perceived as a hoodlum or a nigger for any of this range of things, purely because I have dark skin and I'm rapping. Doesn't matter what the fuck I'm rapping about. I could be rapping about trying to be successful. I could be rapping about, nearly wanting to commit suicide at one point. Anything that rappers talk about. I could rap about some of that kind of shit, and people aren't going to care because I'm rapping and I'm black. It's little shit like that people just don't think about if they're not in that situation, and people need to start thinking about those kinds of things, because then we'll understand each other a lot better and we'll have less problems. Like, sometimes I feel too, though, people will kind of label situations as being racially related or kind of try to twist it in that direction, and a lot of times it's like, that's not what's going on here. You're dealing with a shitty person. You need to just calm down. Granted, there are times where I've only had it a couple of times too, where people have said something so blatantly racist that it's off-putting, and you have to kind of reel back and be like, what the fuck did they just say? Was that supposed to be, what does that mean? You pick it apart in your head. You're going, what? And sometimes people just say shit and it's like, that was a fucked up thing to say. But then other times I've had people tell me things where I'm going, that was one of the most racist things I've ever heard in my fucking life. Like, what? I had someone once tell me that I told them how I listen to rap on my bike and everything, and they told me, they asked if the rappers I like hate the police. And I was like, not really. As far as I know, none of them have a problem with the police. They don't bring up the police. And then they launched into this thing about how they have a friend who studied rappers. Or, no, she didn't say study. She said studied the rappers. And, learn a lot about different kinds of rappers and learn that, generally they don't like the police. And the way she was describing it to me, it was one of the most blatantly fucked up racist things I've ever heard in my goddamn life. Because it was literally, if you are a rapper, well, one, a lot of people assume you're black if you're a rapper. And two, you rap about all kinds of thug shit. But I know that there's different categories of rap. And so hearing someone be like, oh, well, don't they all hate the police? And I'm like, what is they all, first of all? And what do you mean do they all hate the police? Are you talking about NWA and them? Because they don't like the police. But, Futuristic and fucking Logic and all those kinds of dudes, they don't talk about the police. They don't give a fuck. It's disturbing shit like that happens, where people are just living in their little bubbles, their contained circles of the same people, the same experiences, the same type of shit, when they never branch out and try to learn anything new, but then they'll sit on a high horse and act like they know fucking everything. And you can't do that. Especially when it comes to different races and cultures. You cannot do that. You need to actually spend time mingling and getting involved in the culture and all those different things to have those kinds of conversations. And even when you have those kinds of conversations, never go into it like you know everything. I've learned not to talk about, even being black like I know everything, because I haven't seen everything. I more like to learn all kinds of shit from all kinds of different sources than to just act like I know everything and I don't need to learn shit and I'm fucking untouchable. A lot of people think that way, and that isn't how the fuck it works at all. You can't see me walking with one of my friends with my Spider-Man snapback backwards and my Marvel shirt with Iron Man, Hulk, Spider-Man, and Thor on it. How can you look at that, but because my hat is backwards and my skin is dark, I'm a fucking hoodlum? But then some other black guys walk by me and my friends, and they're all sagging their pants, and one of them's got a fucking bandana on and shit. And they're all sitting there doing their fucking thing and whatever the fuck is going on. even them you can't label as hoodlums because you don't know who the fuck they are. Like, the shit does really frustrate me. Like, on a level of just people need to obtain a better understanding of each other. I've, like I said, I've had to be out of my bubble a lot of times. Fuck, man. I had to move out of my parents' house a year ago. That is one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever had to do in my fucking life. But now I know so much more, and I've matured so much since then, and I'm learning so many different things about the world now, all because I was put outside of my bubble, which life has done to me a few times. It's put me outside of my bubble. And if more people would just willingly walk outside of their bubbles instead of being forced to, I feel like we'd be better off. We'd have a lot less problems if people would just stop sitting on their high horses like they fucking know everything and start trying to learn from each other. Don't assume because there's some music videos and everything that you know how black people work. Talk to some black people. Get to know some black people. Befriend some black people. Don't just say you have a black friend and that makes it cool. Actually get to know people. Fucking form friendships and shit. Form legitimate bonds. Because then you'll start learning things and you won't even really know about it until you run into someone who's in the position you were in before. I don't know, man. It really does disturb me. And honestly, on the racial front, I think we all need to take a different approach now. Because obviously, the approaches that we're trying, some are working, but there needs to be some tweaks done. And I don't know. It's a whole deep, complex topic, but I'll address more of that later. I think that's about my time for now. This phone's probably gonna quit on video in a minute, but thank you all for listening. Listening to me rant and talk about shit and everything. This is gonna be the thing that this channel's for. This is gonna be the regular. Anyway, see y'all motherfuckers later.